Why would he leave you the house, Maya? He barely even spoke to you. The words sliced through the still air of the lawyer's office. Evelyn Hart's voice trembled with rage, though she tried to mask it beneath the delicate restraint of her widow's posture. The pearls around her neck gleamed sharply under the fluorescent light, as if mocking Maya's quiet simplicity. Maya Ellison sat across the table, her fingers tightly clasped in her lap, eyes lowered. The faint scent of coffee and paper filled the air, and she could hear the slow ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Every second felt like it was measuring her guilt. She had no answer to Evelyn's question, because, truthfully, she didn't know why Daniel had left her anything at all. The lawyer, Mr. Green, cleared his throat softly, his round glasses slipping down the bridge of his nose as he shuffled the legal papers before him. "Mrs. Hart," he said, voice cautious, "the will was signed and witnessed by 2 parties 3 months ago. Mr. Daniel Hart was of sound mind when it was drafted. Everything here," he hesitated, glancing at Maya, "is legally valid." Evelyn's lips tightened. "Legally valid," she repeated, the words tasting bitter. "And morally?" Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She looked up for the first time, her brown eyes soft but steady. "I didn't ask for this, Mrs. Hart." Evelyn laughed quietly, a brittle, humorless sound. "No, I'm sure you didn't. Things like this just happen, don't they? Men with dying lungs suddenly decide to give away family estates to the help." The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Maya flinched but said nothing. She had been Daniel Hart's nurse. Nothing more, nothing less. For 8 months, she'd tended to him in his final illness. The oxygen tanks, the sleepless nights, the trembling hands reaching for water at 3 a.m. He was kind, gentle, but secretive. Always secretive, and now somehow she was sitting here being told she owned everything he'd left behind. "The estate at Willowbend," Mr. Green read, adjusting his glasses, "including its grounds, outbuildings, and furnishings, is hereby bequeathed to Ms. Maya Ellison." The room fell into a silence so thick it felt alive. Evelyn gripped the armrest of her chair, knuckles whitening. "You must think I'm a fool," she said, voice breaking. "Do you know what people will say?" Maya stood abruptly, the wooden chair scraping against the marble floor. "I don't want the house," she said. "I don't want any of this. He just told me once that he wanted it to stay warm. That's all." Evelyn looked at her with cold disbelief. "Warm," she echoed. "He wanted it warm? How poetic!" Her voice dropped lower, sharper. "You must have been very warm to him indeed." The implication hit like a slap. Maya's breath caught and she turned away. She wanted to speak, to explain, but no words came. The humiliation burned behind her eyes, but she swallowed it. Daniel was gone, and with him, any defense she might have had. The lawyer coughed gently. "Mrs. Hart, perhaps," but Evelyn stood, gathering her purse. "I've heard enough. You'll be hearing from my solicitor, Mr. Green." The door closed sharply behind her, leaving the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. Outside, the late afternoon sun bled gold across the cobblestone streets. Maya walked slowly, the folded legal document pressed against her chest. The world around her blurred, the chatter of people, the cry of distant gulls, the low hum of a passing car. Daniel Hart had been more than her patient. He had been a mystery, a kind man with a sadness that lived behind his smile. Sometimes, when he'd fall asleep in his armchair, the oxygen mask rising and falling with his breath, she'd catch him murmuring names she didn't recognize. One of them had been Clara, another, once had been Ellison, her own name. She never asked why. And now, it was too late. When she reached the gate of Willowbend Estate, the mansion loomed in the distance, framed by tall elms and climbing ivy. The fading sunlight painted its windows in shades of rose and gold. She had only ever come here as a caretaker, walking quietly through the servant's door with her uniform pressed and her heart steady. Now she held the keys to the front entrance, and the thought made her chest ache. She opened the gate slowly, the iron creaking like a sigh. The gravel crunched beneath her shoes. The fountain in the courtyard had stopped running. Moss grew along its edges. Everything looked both alive and asleep. Inside, the mansion smelled faintly of lavender and old wood polish. Her footsteps echoed down the marble corridor, past portraits of stern ancestors whose painted eyes seemed to follow her. She paused at one, a woman with dark skin, wearing a simple blue gown and pearl earrings, standing beside a man who looked startlingly like Daniel. The inscription below read, "Clara Hart, 1892, Maya stepped closer, heart thudding." The woman in the portrait looked uncannily familiar, the same deep brown eyes, the same shape of face. Her candle flickered. "Clara," she whispered. The name Daniel had murmured in his sleep. She felt suddenly dizzy and backed away, clutching the stair rail. That night, the mansion's silence was unbearable. Every creak, every whisper of wind against the windows made her jump. She lit the old brass lamp in the study, the same place Daniel used to sit when she'd read to him on long nights. His handwriting was everywhere, on letters, notes, and an unfinished sketchbook. The last entry was dated 2 days before he died. If she ever finds this, tell her the truth. The blood doesn't lie, her heart pounded. Beneath the notebook lay a folded envelope, yellowed and sealed with wax. Her name was written across it in Daniel's shaky handwriting. Maya. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it, and then stopped when she heard the faint crunch of gravel outside. She turned toward the window. Headlights flickered through the trees, casting long shadows across the curtains. A car door slammed. She moved quietly to the foyer, her pulse racing. Through the glass panes of the door, she saw a tall man step out of the dark sedan. He straightened his long coat, glanced up at the mansion, and walked toward the entrance with calm certainty, like someone returning home. When she opened the door, he smiled faintly. "Sorry," he said, voice smooth, polite. "I didn't mean to intrude. I'm Thomas Hart, Daniel's nephew." Her mind froze. "I didn't know he had a nephew." He tilted his head. "Few did. My father and Daniel were estranged for years." He looked past her into the hallway, eyes scanning the space as though searching for ghosts. "I heard about the will." Maya tightened her grip on the doorknob. "I don't know why he did it," she said quickly. Thomas smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Maybe he saw something in you." The way he said it, calm, almost tender, made her uneasy. "Look," she said softly. "It's late. Maybe we can talk tomorrow." But he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "My uncle trusted very few people, Ms. Ellison, and now that he's gone, there are things you should know. About him, about this place." Maya hesitated. The storm clouds outside rumbled low. "What kind of things?" He looked past her toward the grand staircase, his expression unreadable. "Secrets, ones he tried to bury." Later, after he left, she sat by the fireplace, Daniel's letter still unopened in her lap. The flames cast long shadows on the walls, and the ticking of the clock echoed like footsteps. She thought of Thomas's eyes, calm, knowing, and of Daniel's last words before he died. "The truth isn't in the house. Maya, it's beneath it." She whispered his words now into the empty room, as if the house might answer. A gust of wind rattled the windows. Then, faintly, she heard something. A low metallic sound. She rose slowly and followed it down the corridor, past the portraits, to the heavy wooden door leading to the cellar. It was slightly open. Her heart hammered as she pushed it wider. The air below was cold and damp, carrying the smell of stone and age. She descended carefully, the wooden stairs creaking under her weight. At the far wall, the candlelight flickered across something etched into the brick. She stepped closer, wiping away the dust with her sleeve. Her breath caught. It was a name, Ellison, her own last name, beneath it, a date. 1912. She stumbled back, gripping the candle so tightly it shook. What was her family name doing carved into the walls of Daniel Hart's cellar, a century before she was born? The wind howled outside, and in that single trembling moment, she realized that Daniel hadn't left her the mansion out of affection or pity. He'd left her the truth, one he couldn't say aloud before he died that night. As rain lashed the windows and thunder rolled through the hills, Maya sat alone in the flickering candlelight, the envelope still unopened on her lap. The house creaked softly around her, like it was breathing. Remembering, she knew what she had to do next, because the answers weren't in Daniel's words. They were in the walls, the cellar, the names, and the secrets that lived beneath. The marble floors of Willowbend, and she was finally ready to find them. Even if the truth destroyed her, you shouldn't be down here alone. Maya froze at the sound of Thomas's voice echoing from the top of the cellar stairs. She turned, candlelight trembling in her hand. His silhouette loomed against the faint glow from above, rainwater glistening on his coat. "I could ask you the same thing," she said, her voice steady but her pulse racing. "How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough," he replied, descending a few steps, his hand gliding along the banister. "This house isn't safe at night. The storms make the ground unstable. My uncle always said that." Maya's eyes flicked to the carving again. Ellison, 1912. She didn't move closer. "Did he ever tell you why there's a name carved into his cellar wall?" Thomas's eyes darkened. "A name?" She gestured toward it, and his gaze followed the trembling candlelight. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, quietly, "Maybe you should come upstairs." He turned and climbed back up, his footsteps measured and calm. But Maya didn't miss the way his hand gripped the railing, tight, almost trembling. When she reached the study, Thomas was standing by the fireplace, staring at one of Daniel's old photographs. The picture showed the estate in 1965, a family portrait, everyone poised and polished, everyone white, except one woman in the background, half out of frame, holding a small child. Her skin was dark, her face turned away. Maya's throat went dry. Thomas noticed her looking. "That was my grandmother's maid," he said. "Her name was Evelyn. I think she had a daughter." Maya's breath caught. "Evelyn Ellison?" He looked at her sharply. "You know that name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she crossed the room to the desk and picked up Daniel's envelope. The wax seal was cracked but unbroken. "Daniel left this for me," she said. "I haven't opened it." Thomas's jaw tightened. "Maybe you should." Maya hesitated, then tore the seal carefully and unfolded the letter. The handwriting was shaky, each word carrying the weight of a dying man's confession. "My dearest Maya, if you are reading this, I am gone. You have questions. Questions I never had the courage to answer while breath still filled my lungs. The truth is, you are not a stranger to this house. You are part of it, in ways I could never tell you. My mother, Clara Hart, had a sister. She was sent away under scandalous circumstances, forbidden to return. Her name was Evelyn Ellison. She was your great-grandmother. That makes you family, Maya, the last living heir of Willowbend. Forgive me for hiding it. Forgive me for waiting until death to make it right. With love and regret, Daniel." The letter slipped from her trembling hands. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Thomas was the first to speak. "You're his heir?" "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear, I didn't know." He nodded slowly, eyes distant. "That explains why he left everything to you." Maya shook her head. "No, it doesn't explain why no one ever told me, why your family erased mine." Thomas's jaw clenched. He didn't answer right away. Then quietly, "Families like mine don't talk about what they've done. They build walls, not bridges." Maya looked at him, and for the first time, she saw something human behind his calm exterior. Shame, perhaps even sorrow. He stepped closer, his voice softening. "You've been living in someone else's shadow, Maya. Maybe this place, this inheritance, is your chance to step out of it." Her eyes met his. "You talk like you want me to stay." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I do." Something unspoken passed between them, fragile, hesitant. The rain outside had softened to a gentle rhythm, the wind whispering through the tall elms. Maya folded the letter and pressed it against her chest. "I think I need air," she said. Thomas nodded. "I'll come with you." They walked the grounds in silence, the wet grass glistening under the faint moonlight. The scent of rain and earth filled the air. From the garden, the mansion looked almost otherworldly, golden light flickering in its windows, ivy climbing like veins along its walls. Thomas stopped near the fountain, his reflection rippling in the rainwater pooled inside. "My uncle wasn't an easy man," he said. "He kept secrets from everyone, even me." Maya looked at him. "But you came back anyway." He smiled softly. "I thought I could make peace with the past, maybe even reclaim what was lost." "Reclaim?" she repeated. He turned toward her, meeting her eyes. "The house, the family name, all of it." There was something in his tone, something careful, almost rehearsed. "You mean your inheritance," she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Maya stepped back. "So that's why you're here?" Thomas's expression softened, guilt flickering across his face. "At first, maybe, but it's more complicated now." The way he looked at her then made her heart ache, not because it was tender, but because it was conflicted. "Maya," he said gently, "you're not safe here. There are people who won't accept this. You think Evelyn's gone, but her descendants, my family, they don't let go of power easily." "Your family," she repeated bitterly. "And what about you?" He hesitated. "I don't want to hurt you." She stared at him for a long moment, searching his face for the truth. Then she turned away. "I need to be alone." He didn't follow her. Back inside, the mansion felt colder than before. She walked through the hallways, her footsteps echoing softly. The portraits seemed to watch her, their painted eyes following as she passed. She stopped again before Clara Hart's portrait, the woman who looked so much like her. "I'm your blood," she whispered to the canvas. "And you never knew." The candlelight flickered, and for a moment, she could have sworn the woman's painted lips curved into the faintest, saddest smile. Then, from the far end of the hall came the soft sound of glass breaking. Maya turned sharply, her heart leaping. "Thomas?" No answer. She followed the noise to the study. The window was open, curtains billowing in the wind. Papers were scattered across the floor, and Daniel's letter was gone. Her pulse spiked. She hurried to the door, only to stop when she saw something on the floor. A cufflink. Silver, engraved with a single initial. T. Thomas. Her breath caught. She ran to the window and looked out. The garden below was dark and empty, except for the faint glimmer of headlights disappearing down the road. He'd taken the letter. The next morning dawned gray and heavy. Maya sat at the kitchen table, sleepless, staring at the teacup in front of her. Rain tapped against the glass. Daniel's letter was gone, but its words burned in her mind. "You are not a stranger to this house. You are part of it." And now Thomas was gone too. She rose abruptly and went to the library, Daniel's old study. She began searching through drawers, boxes, and bookshelves. Dust filled the air as she opened a hidden cabinet behind a row of leather-bound ledgers. Inside were stacks of old letters, some brittle and sealed with wax. One caught her eye, addressed in the same hand as Daniel's letter. But this one was marked, "To be opened only by my blood." Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of parchment and a small brass key. The note read, "Maya. If Thomas has found this before you, he will already know the truth. He will try to keep it from you. But the truth cannot stay buried forever. Go to the chapel beneath the oak. There lies what my family feared most. Your mother tried to find it once. She never returned. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her mother. She clutched the note, eyes burning with tears. "What did they do to you?" she whispered. The rain outside intensified, wind howling through the trees. She grabbed her coat and the brass key and ran into the storm. The chapel sat at the edge of the estate, half buried beneath the roots of an enormous oak tree. Its roof sagged and its windows were cracked, but the door still bore the Hart family crest, weathered and defiant. Maya pushed it open, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, moonlight streamed through the broken stained glass, painting fractured colors across the floor. Dust floated in the air like ghosts. She stepped forward, clutching the key. There, behind the altar, was a small locked chest. Her hands shook as she slid the key into the lock and turned it. The latch clicked open. Inside was a stack of old photographs, a locket and a single legal document, the original will of Daniel Hart. Her blood ran cold. The document's date was months older than the one the lawyer read. The ink faded, but the message clear. "I hereby leave Willowbend Estate to my rightful heir, Maya Ellison, daughter of Lorraine Ellison, granddaughter of Evelyn Ellison." And beneath it, another note written in Daniel's frail hand. "If this will is found, know that it was replaced under duress. They made me rewrite it. The truth must survive me." Her vision blurred. Tears streamed down her face. Behind her, the chapel door creaked. "Maya," a voice said softly. She turned. Thomas stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his coat, eyes dark with something unreadable. "I told you," he said quietly. "You weren't safe. Don't come any closer." Maya's voice trembled as she stepped back from the altar, clutching the will to her chest. Rain drummed on the chapel roof, thunder rolling like distant warning. Thomas didn't move. His face was pale, his soaked shirt clinging to his chest, but his eyes burned with something fierce. Desperation, guilt, and grief tangled together. "I told you not to come here," he said quietly. "You shouldn't have found that." "Why, Thomas?" Maya's voice broke. "Because it proves the truth. That your family stole this house from mine? That they silenced Evelyn Ellison and my mother?" He looked away, jaw tightening. "You don't understand what this will do." "I understand perfectly," she said, her anger trembling into tears. "Your uncle tried to make it right before he died, but you took his letter. You tried to stop me." Thomas stepped closer, shaking his head. "No, I was trying to protect you." "From what?" she snapped. "From the truth?" He hesitated, rain dripping from his hair. Then, in a low, broken voice, "From my father." Maya froze. Thomas took another step forward, his voice rough with emotion. "Daniel wasn't the only one keeping secrets. My father, Richard Hart, he knew about the will. He burned the first copy. He sent men after your mother when she started asking questions." Maya's breath caught in her throat. "You're lying." "I wish I were." His eyes glistened under the lightning flash. "Your mother came here 20 years ago. She found the chapel. She found this box. My father caught her before she could take it. He told everyone she disappeared in the city." Her knees weakened. "He killed her?" Thomas's silence was answer enough. Maya pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, choking back a sob. The storm outside grew louder, the wind howling through the cracked windows. "You knew," she whispered, "and you still let me come here." "I thought it was over," he said, stepping closer, voice breaking. "After my father died, I thought I could fix it. Quietly, I wanted to find that will before anyone else did. I wanted to give it to you without dragging the family name through the mud." Maya looked up, eyes fierce through her tears. "You mean without losing your inheritance?" He flinched. "You say you wanted to protect me," she said bitterly. But you were protecting yourself. Maya, don't! Her voice cracked like the thunder overhead. Don't say my name like it means something to you. The candlelight flickered violently as another gust of wind blew through. For a long, heavy moment, neither of them moved. Then Maya turned away, clutching the will. I'm taking this to the police, to a lawyer, someone who'll make it right. You won't make it that far, Thomas said quietly. She froze. Slowly, she turned back. What? His face was pale, regretful, but his eyes were filled with fear. They're already coming, my father's old associates. They don't want that will to see daylight. They've been watching since you arrived. Maya's pulse spiked. You told them? I didn't have a choice, he said desperately. I thought they'd leave you alone if I... A sharp crack split the air. A gunshot, shattering one of the stained glass windows. Maya screamed and ducked behind the altar, clutching the will. Thomas dove toward her, grabbing her wrist. Come on! He shouted. They ran toward the side door, boots slipping on wet stone. Another shot rang out, splintering the wooden frame beside them. Rain lashed their faces as they burst out into the storm, lightning flashing across the grounds. This way! Thomas shouted, leading her toward the old caretaker's cottage at the edge of the property. Maya stumbled after him, clutching the soaked will against her chest. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her heart hammered like thunder. Inside the cottage, Thomas shoved the door shut and bolted it. They both collapsed against the wall, gasping. Maya turned on him, furious. This is what you call protecting me? I didn't know they'd go this far, he said, voice shaking. They're after me too now. Lightning flashed again, illuminating his face, drawn, haunted, soaked with rain and remorse. Maya stared at him for a long time, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. You had every chance to tell me, she whispered. Every chance to stop this before it started. He looked down. And I ruined all of them. The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of rain and their trembling breaths. Finally, Maya pulled the will from her jacket. We can still fix this. If I get this to the authorities, Thomas shook his head, they'll destroy it the moment they see it. Then I'll expose it myself, she said fiercely, online, everywhere. I'll tell the world what the Harts did. Thomas's eyes softened. You're just like your mother, he said quietly. Brave, stubborn, beautiful. Maya looked away, her throat tightening. Don't do that. Do what? Make me feel sorry for you. He took a slow step closer. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm done running. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded envelope, the same one she thought he'd taken from Daniel's study. I didn't destroy it, he said. I kept it because I wanted to understand why he trusted you. Now I do. He handed it to her. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a second note, shorter, written in Daniel's weak scrawl. Thomas, if you find this before Maya does, protect her. She carries the name our family tried to erase. What she chooses to do with the truth will define both of us. Maya's eyes filled with tears. He trusted you too. Thomas nodded slowly. And I failed him. Before she could reply, headlights flashed through the rain. A black car pulling up outside the cottage. Maya's heart stopped. They're here. Thomas's face hardened. You run, through the back. No, she said firmly. Not without you. He looked at her, rain-soaked hair plastered to his forehead. If they catch us both, it's over. But if you get out with that will... He didn't finish. The door rattled violently. Voices shouted outside. Thomas turned to her, grabbed her face in his hands, and kissed her. Fierce, desperate, filled with everything left unsaid. When he pulled away, his eyes glistened. Go! Thomas, please. Maya hesitated, then nodded. She turned and ran through the back door, clutching the will close to her heart. She sprinted across the muddy field, wind and rain lashing her face. Behind her, gunfire shattered the storm's roar. Then a flash, and the sound of an explosion ripped through the night. The cottage burst into flame. Maya screamed his name, stumbling to her knees. The heat from the fire glowed orange through the rain, smoke rising into the dark sky. Thomas! But no one answered. She fell to the ground, sobbing, the will clutched in her trembling hands. For a long time, she stayed there, the storm washing over her, until the first blue lights of dawn broke through the clouds. Weeks later. The news spread quietly at first, then like wildfire. Hart Estate scandal, secret heir revealed, original will found among ruins. Maya sat on the porch of the old house, now her house, watching the sunrise paint the sky. The air smelled like wet grass and new beginnings. In her hand, she held the same brass key that had unlocked the truth. On the table beside her was a folded newspaper, a small headline beneath the chaos. Local man dies in mysterious fire. Investigation ongoing. Her eyes burned. She whispered to the wind, "You kept your promise, Thomas." A soft breeze stirred. The ivy along the porch carrying the faintest hint of his cologne, cedar and rain. She smiled through her tears. Inside, the house creaked softly, alive again. The portraits on the walls seemed to glow faintly in the morning light, the ghosts of the past finally at peace. Maya looked out across the fields, whispering, "It's over, Mama. We're home." But deep in her heart, she knew some things never truly ended. Because love, even when silenced, leaves echoes that never fade. And in the golden light of that quiet morning, one echo whispered through her heart, clear and haunting. "He died in her arms once in spirit, but in truth, he never really left."